Hi, I'm Ranger, and today I'll be talking about what I learned from the course and what I'll be taking away. So, one of the main things that I took away from the course was how dynamic care work is and caregiving roles in a household. I often kind of just thought of care work as like mother, father, takes care of daughters and sons. But in reality, care work can be pretty much anything. It could be a grandmother taking care, it could be an aunt taking care, it could be like a bisexual couple, it could be all sorts of like genders and identifications within a household that basically just means that they're taking care of someone else. And so I found this really interesting because before the class I hadn't really thought of how dynamic care work can be. You could even consider like your best friend as a sort of like caregiving, maybe if you helped them grow up or things like that. And so I guess I just never thought of it that way. And so taking away from the class in the future, I can kind of think of care work and families as more dynamic and different than just a male and a female and then sons and daughters. And then another one of the things that I learned that I'll definitely take away is exactly how much gender kind of affects or plays a role in care work or caregiving roles. I never really thought to the extent of how much gender can play in the social construction of what's considered care work and things like that. But in society and households, like gender plays, there's still like this deep gendered socialization of care work. So like males taking on typical like gender male roles that are seen as like traditional roles, and then women doing the same, like having specific and like I found it really interesting that even though women might have full-time jobs, they're still expected to take on majority of like emotional and domestic labor, like cooking, cleaning, those sorts of aspects, and like emotional investments in the children. And I think we talked about in class, and it was something like they work a certain number of hours a week, and then outside of that they put in like a significant amount of hours towards like caregiving or like domestic labor and things like that. So I guess I didn't really realize how undervalued like women's association and like roles in society and families really is. And I just found it interesting that like mothering and fathering also isn't necessarily like a male and a female. It's kind of socially